Hello, Diana here. So, I've been thinking about this, and I want to give a little peek into my book that's coming out. It's Lonely in Truth, the Cassandra Phenomenon, What the World would not believe about autism. And that's not the subtitle. What is the subtitle? The subtitle was tough to figure out because it's such a huge topic. Lonely in Truth, the Cassandra Phenomenon, What the World Won't Believe About Your Autistic Partner. Yes, I love it. Okay, my dear, amazing editor helped me come up with that. Whew. So, in my preface, I will read this to you and hopefully you enjoy. So here we go. As I was driving on a lonely, dark road in Nevada during the early hours of the morning, with my two dogs sound asleep in their travel beds, I realized I still had an hour before reaching the bright lights of Las Vegas. I decided to use my phone's recording app. A friend had once told me that recording my voice could help me find the answer to a personal question, and sure enough, it had worked wonders. I turned on the recorder and started talking. The first thing I said was, "Oh, Diana, what's your deal? Just let things go. Your first book is fine as it is." My first book is Lonely in Love. It's on Amazon. Your first book's fine as it is, but it's not. There's so much more. Dig deeper. Okay, so how is this next book going to dive deeper into the abyss of life with these crazy guys? What do you hate most about your life with Gil? A flipping ton of things. Pick one. I hate that my family and friends still don't get it. My stomach hurts just thinking about how I heard no feedback at all from my family about Lonely in Love. My first book, I just mentioned that. It's like I never wrote it. The very people I most wished would read it have disappeared. Diana, you must get over that sadness. Let them go. Breathing in. Breathing out. Okay, now, what will be the title of your next book? What will be the focus? Cassandra Syndrome. Okay. So lonely in family, nah. Lonely in misery, nope, too morbid, dang it. Lonely in this car, lonely in the world, lonely in Vegas, lonely in hunger, I'm getting hungry, lonely in truth, lonely in, at that moment, a huge owl flew past my passenger window. She had to have been close. I saw the outline of her feathers. I really did. It was very, very daunting. So lonely in truth, yes, perfect. Thank you, dear wise owl. Isn't that cool? After finalizing the title and focus of the book, I began collecting stories, just as I had done for my previous book. I posted my request in the Facebook group for women coping with Cassandra syndrome. I posted my request in the Facebook group. I just said that. This time the response was overwhelming. 3 times as many women were interested in sharing their stories compared to when I requested stories for Lonely in Love 5 years ago. Additionally, the number of women in groups like these has tripled from 5 years ago. Isn't that? Okay. The stories in this book are about women who are married to or were once partnered with men on the mild end of the autism spectrum, formerly known as Asperger syndrome. These women are neurotypical or at least non-autistic, so their relationships are considered neurodiverse, meaning there's a neurotypical person in a relationship with a neurodivergent person. The focus within the stories is Cassandra syndrome, a life-altering phenomenon that often occurs and usually remains unaddressed within these relationships. Don't we know it? The Cassandra phenomenon depicts a state of confusion, self-doubt, and inner turmoil that is all too familiar among neurotypical people who, when describing their experiences with an adult on the spectrum, are doubted, discounted, ignored, even rejected by friends, family members, and professionals. This is by Dr. Kenneth Roberson, and I will leave a link to his website below. It's fortunate that we now live in a more open and aware world when it comes to mental health and neurological differences in relationships. Not long ago, we knew very little about how autism affects relationships in adults. However, many of the men in these stories do not fully accept their diagnosis. In some cases, it's the partner who identifies the condition after going on a quest for answers. Although therapists are more aware of neurodiverse relationships than before, we still find ourselves pioneering in our relationships with these men. The stories explore the challenging side of autism, where the men resist efforts to make the relationship work, and the external world may not understand or acknowledge our struggles. I will do my best in this book to look at the whole picture and acknowledge the struggles from both sides. Autism is often passed on genetically, and many people know someone or have a family member diagnosed with autism, so this book isn't just for those in a relationship with an autistic person. There's also a lot of talk about narcissism, which is tough to address, but since our focus is on Cassandra syndrome, it needs to be mentioned. Autism can sometimes look a lot like narcissism. The similarities are often staggering when dealing with an autistic person in our lives, especially a partner. If they're older, they were probably never diagnosed, and they've had to survive the world as best they can. They usually develop intense ways to handle relationships, often through anger due to feeling misunderstood. Some individuals on the spectrum, those with a high IQ and success in the outside world, struggle to come to grips with being different because their autism is mild. Their unwillingness to change or learn, along with the lack of social skills and the inability to show empathy they may be feeling, creates a very difficult situation for close family members. I have included a story from a person on the spectrum as well, so we can get his perspective. He is a rare adult willing to embrace his autism traits. Don't get mad at me for saying rare. Okay. This is something most Cassandra sisters only dream of having in our significant others. He will also tell you why some men refuse to accept their autism traits. He's got a very interesting story. I love it. Besides me, Diana, 13 people have contributed to this book. Each author has expressed their own opinions in their story, which may not reflect those of the collecting author or other contributors. Please note, if you are or feel that you may be in a neurodiverse relationship and your story is similar to the stories in this book, please bookmark or highlight passages that resonate with you so you can refer to them again and again for reminders and support during difficult moments. Please refer to the resources section of this book for more helpful information. And then at the end, no, we're not at the end. I said, I believe you. I believe you. I do. All autistic people are unique. This book focuses on a specific group of men who were not recognized or diagnosed as autistic until later in life. Many of them exhibit behaviors at home that may be perceived as narcissistic. Some of the men may have comorbid narcissistic personality disorder. Some studies report that a very small percentage of autistic individuals also meet the criteria for narcissistic personality disorder. However, Both autism and narcissism can present with complex interpersonal difficulties, which can sometimes lead to confusion in diagnosis. The percentage may also be low because a person who is autistic with comorbid MPD would probably not seek help or diagnosis because of the narcissistic disorder. It's important to note that narcissistic personality disorder is different. Let me say it again. It's different from autism, okay? Autistic individuals may struggle to show empathy or to understand others' perspectives, but this does not mean they are narcissistic. They tend to be extremely self-absorbed, which may be where the confusion arises, but regardless of the diagnosis, the impact on the partner can be significant. The truth can be uncomfortable, and many want to avoid it or shut the door on it. I get it. This book opens the door to real-life stories, real-life true stories. If you are Cassandra, you know what I mean. If you are not, I encourage you to keep reading and challenge any disbelief. Support us, acknowledge us, and most importantly, believe us. What I know for sure is that speaking your truth is the most powerful tool we have. That's by Oprah Winfrey. Well, thank you for listening. If you want to hear more about this, hear more stories, I'm going to go through different stories that I have in my book that I will read. They're very, very interesting. Really good stuff. Really, it's the hard truth. All right, press that subscribe button and I'll read some more stories and we'll dive into this even more. Take good care.